The young Filipina singer stood quietly behind the thick velvet curtain of the America's Got Talent stage, her heartbeat echoing louder than the noise of the massive crowd on the other side. The backstage lights cast a warm golden glow around her, outlining her small but determined figure. She held her hands together tightly, fingers interlocked, whispering a soft prayer under her breath. This wasn't a prayer of desperation, it was a prayer of gratitude, courage, and trust. Her voice trembled slightly as she asked for strength to share her gift in a way that would touch hearts. Her mother stood beside her, gently placing a supportive hand on her shoulder. The warmth of that touch reminded her of every moment that had led to this night, the church choir practices, the small-town performances, the nights spent singing to lift her own spirit. Now she was minutes away from singing in front of the world. Despite the buzzing movement around her, crew members rushing, camera operators adjusting equipment, stage managers whispering instructions, she felt as if she were in a bubble of calm. Her eyes remained closed, focused only on the quiet conversation between her and God. The faint humming of the audience seeped through the curtain like a distant wave, reminding her how big this moment truly was. She took one slow breath, then another. Her prayer wasn't about winning, it was about delivering a message of hope. With one final whisper of, "Lord, be with me," she opened her eyes, ready to walk into the light. As her name echoed across the massive theater, the young Filipina singer took her first step toward the stage. The floor beneath her feet gleamed like glass, reflecting every movement as she walked forward with a mixture of fear and determination. The bright white spotlight followed her slowly, creating a path of light that guided her to the center of the stage. Her palms felt slightly damp, but she kept them steady as she held the microphone close to her chest. The audience went silent the moment they saw her. Thousands of faces focused on her tiny figure, curious and expectant. She swallowed hard, feeling the intensity of the moment settle deep inside her chest. Still, she didn't back down. She raised her chin and offered a small, nervous smile. The judges studied her closely. Heidi Klum leaned forward with interest, Sofia Vergara softened her expression with an encouraging smile, and Howie Mandel nodded lightly as if telling her she could do this. But it was Simon Cowell who captured her attention the most. He tilted his head slightly, eyes narrowed, not in judgment, but in curiosity. His expression said he sensed something different, something special. She stopped at the center of the stage, the bright lights warming her face as she adjusted her stance. The microphone stand stood tall in front of her, like a silent partner waiting for her cue. Her heart pounded, but the moment she took a deep breath, everything around her faded. This was her chance, her moment to share her voice, her faith, and her story. The theater held its breath the moment she lifted the microphone. A soft hush washed over the audience, as if thousands of people instinctively recognized that something extraordinary was about to happen. The Filipina singer closed her eyes for a brief second, centering herself, feeling the warmth of the lights on her skin and the weight of her emotions rising to the surface. Then, with a steady inhale, she released the very first note of her Christian worship song. The sound that came from her was pure, powerful, and unexpectedly angelic. It carried through the room like a wave of light, strong enough to silence every whisper, tender enough to touch the deepest parts of the heart. That single note floated across the hall with a clarity that stunned everyone. Audience members gasped softly, their jaws dropping as they exchanged looks of disbelief. The camera zoomed in on the judges' reactions. Heidi's eyes widened instantly, Sophia's lips parted in surprise, and Howie leaned back, eyebrows raised. But the real shift happened on Simon Cowell's face. His usual stern expression softened into shock, his brows lifting, his posture straightening as if he had just heard something truly remarkable. The crowd remained still, mesmerized. Even the production crew backstage paused in their movements, drawn in by her voice echoing through the vast space. As she continued singing, her tone grew fuller, filled with emotion, purpose, and an unmistakable spiritual warmth. In that moment, she wasn't just performing, she was delivering something sacred, something unforgettable. As the song moved toward its emotional peak, the atmosphere inside the theater shifted completely. The Filipina singer stood rooted at the center of the stage, her voice rising with a trembling strength that made every lyric feel like a prayer lifted into the air. Her eyes glistened as she poured her heart into the melody, each word carrying the weight of her faith, her struggles, and her hope. The lights behind her brightened into a soft golden halo, surrounding her in a warm, angelic glow that made the moment feel almost holy. The audience, already captivated, began to feel the full force of her emotion. A woman in the front row covered her mouth as tears spilled down her cheeks. A father lifted his young daughter onto his lap, holding her close as they both watched with quiet amazement. Even people who didn't usually get emotional found their eyes welling up, touched by the purity of her voice. At the judges' table, the reactions were equally intense. Heidi pressed a hand to her chest, visibly moved. Sophia blinked rapidly, trying to keep her tears from falling. Howie nodded slowly in admiration, recognizing the raw passion in her performance. But it was Simon's face that revealed the depth of the moment, his usually firm expression softened entirely, his eyes reflecting genuine emotion. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, fully invested, as if he didn't want to miss a single note. The entire auditorium felt united, connected through the powerful emotion pouring from her voice. This wasn't just a performance, it was a moment of truth, sincerity, and spiritual beauty that touched everyone present. The final note lingered in the air like a soft echo of heaven, and for a moment, the entire theater remained frozen in awe. The young Filipina singer stood on stage, chest rising and falling as she tried to steady her breath, her eyes glistening with emotion. She wasn't sure if she should smile, cry, or simply stand still and absorb what had just happened. The silence that followed her last note wasn't empty, it was full, charged, almost sacred. It felt as though the whole world had paused to honor the moment. Then, suddenly, the silence broke. Simon Cowell pushed back his chair and rose to his feet, first. His hands came together in a strong, deliberate clap that echoed across the auditorium. The audience erupted instantly, following his lead with thunderous applause. People jumped to their feet, shouting, cheering, some still wiping tears from their eyes. The other judges stood up as well, Heidi smiling brightly, Sophia nodding proudly, and Howie clapping with genuine admiration. The Filipina singer pressed a trembling hand against her heart, overwhelmed by the sight of thousands of people standing for her. She felt tears finally spill over, warm trails running down her cheeks. Simon continued clapping, shaking his head in disbelief as he looked at her with a soft, almost stunned smile. When the applause finally softened, Simon leaned toward the microphone and said the words that would change her life forever. That was extraordinary. Her breath caught in her throat. In that moment, she knew she had touched millions.